Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Who was that masked man?
How does Lover's Lane exist if cops know about it?
And hey, isn't that Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island?
All this and more on Gory Storytime.
Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Storytime. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig. And before anyone thinks we're getting all weirdly political, our hats are not Make America Great Again hats. They're actually Make Hip Hop Great Again hats that we came up with for something totally unrelated to this. But because we don't really do politics on this show. So I didn't want people to see the red hats and go, oh, I can't watch this. We're supporting horror movies and rap. Good rap.
I don't care if you thought that was the other thing.
Anyway, quickly, to answer those questions from before the theme song, we don't know, I don't know, and hey, something I know. Yes.
Yes.
Go back and match those up.
So this is, yes, absolutely do that. So this is the fourth of 4 horror movies based on
True stories.
True stories.
Yep. And this one is the town that dreaded Sundown. Basically, there was a couple people who had survived this stalker/killer, and that's where they got any of the information they really had. That and the dead bodies. They kind of pieced together what they could.
Yeah.
There is a movie with the same name from 2014. I'm assuming it's a remake. I have not seen it.
It's got a picture that looks very similar to this.
Well, I haven't seen it.
It's a guy in a potato sack, so.
I mean, basically. Which is what every girl you've ever dated wants you to be. Wearing a sack on your head. Anyway, basic premise?
Well, there's a guy, and he likes to kill people.
We don't know why, because we don't know who.
Yes, and then there's this town with people that don't like to be killed.
Ooh, very specific into people.
Yes.
Texans.
So these two destined to find each other, the man who kills and the people who get killed.
I mean, one can't be one without the other.
Exactly, so.
Anyway, so that's basically the premise. It's just a true story of a guy that was killing people in this small town between the border of Arkansas and Texas. It was Texarkana.
Yeah.
Now, before we go into the rest of the show, why don't we show people the trailer so that they know a little more about what we're talking about.
4. Linda Mae Jenkins, age 19. Brutally attacked March 3rd, 1946. Howard W. Turner, 29. Emma Lou Cook, 17. Bodies discovered in a wooded area on March 24th. Roy Allen, 17. Peggy Loomis, 15. Both found dead April 14th in Spring Lake Park. Floyd Reed, age 34. Murdered in his home on May 3rd. Mrs. Reed shot twice, but survived. This man's identity is unknown. He was believed to be between 30 and 40 years old. He wore a white hood and was known only as the Phantom Killer. World War II had just ended. In Texarkana, Arkansas, boys had come home to their families. Husbands reunited with their wives. It was a happy, peaceful time. Until the Phantom Killer struck. For 4 months, he held an entire city in the icy grip of terror. Now, Charles B. Pierce brings this incredible, shocking, and true story to the screen in The Town That Dreaded Sundown, starring Academy Award winner Ben Johnson as Captain J.D. Morales of the Texas Rangers.
We got a cold-blooded killer here. A man who nobody sees. A phantom who, so far, hasn't made any mistakes.
Andrew Prine as Deputy Norman Ramsey of the Texarkana Sheriff's Department.
The only thing we really do know is that we've got a very strange person on our hands.
Well, all right.
So, in case my description of a murderer who likes to murder finds people who don't like to be murdered
And murders them.
and murders them, if in case that wasn't
You know,
enough,
that describes so many horror movies.
Oh, I know.
Strangers.
Oh, I
Nightmare on
know.
Elm Street. Like, none of those kids want to be murdered.
sure.
Except in 3, because
But then there's
suicidal.
but there's story to those.
Yeah, true. Anywho, yeah, there's not a lot of story to this because they couldn't say why he did it
And they couldn't say who did it.
because they don't know those things. Now, before we get into the behind the scenes information or
Meat and beef.
we have
Gotta
to
give me a shirt of that.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to get a job and
I know.
get your own shirt. With what I've been paying lately.
Oh, I know.
The reason we actually do this, you might think it's because we love horror movies, and we do. We do.
Pusha.
But what we really like is big, fat stacks of cash. And how do we
We're
earn
obviously
those?
rolling in it.
I mean, how do we get that? Well, what we do is we pimp ourselves out like the hoes that we are. And
Yes.
Yes.
We are prostitutes.
Well, if you get paid to sell yourself, and we're selling our brand as
Yes.
supplying
Obviously.
their brands. No, we weekly get Brinks trucks full of cash just backed up to our house and dumped on our lawn so that we will sell you these real products that actually exist. And this week, Gory Story Time is brought to you by the True Gives a Crap podcast. You've heard hundreds of true crime podcasts, but this is the one that has no crime, no celebrities, no intrigue, and no suspense. It's guaranteed to be true, though, so it has that going for it. Hear the tale of a guy who bought his wife flowers and hadn't done anything wrong. Or the story of the elderly grandma who got a phone call from her grandson on her birthday. That's the True Gives a Crap podcast.
I mean, all right.
Search for it today.
Sure. And by Burlap Mask Warehouse, the store for all your mask needs, as long as you want them made of burlap. Burlap masks are great for Halloween, keeping warm in winter and, of course, covering you, your lover, or both of your faces if there's a bit of an unattractive situation happening in your relationship. Burlap masks are available for special occasions like bar mitzvahs and anniversaries, so show someone you care with a burlap mask today.
All right.
Yes. Yes. Do that.
All right. Now, let's get down to the actual behind-the-scenes information.
The nitty-gritty meat and beef.
I don't want my beef nitty or gritty, especially gritty, because that's a descriptor that works for food. Nitty? I don't know.
Maybe?
This movie is a semi-documentary based on the real-life string of mysterious killings that terrorized the people of Texarkana, Texas in 1946. The murder spree became known as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders and ultimately claimed 5 lives and injured many others, which means he failed. If there's more than 5 that were injured and only 5 that died, he sucks at serial killing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or stopping them from getting away. Anyway,
Well.
not that I'm promoting that people should be good at it, I'm saying this guy just wasn't. The only description of the killer ever obtained was that of a hooded man. To this day, no one has ever been convicted, and these murders remain unsolved.
Yeah. Some of the swamp scenes at the end of the film are actually recycled footage from The Legend of Boggy Creek from '72, Charles B. Pierce's first feature film.
According to an interview with Andrew Prine, who played one of the
Main
sheriffs,
cops.
yeah, on the Region 1 Shout Factory release, Prine had to write the ending for the movie because the script didn't have one.
I mean, there isn't really an ending to the story. Dude wasn't caught.
Right.
During the film, the narrator says, if you should ask people on the street what they believe happened to the Phantom Killer, most would say that he is still living here and is walking free. The Texarkana police's best lead in the case was a car thief named Yule Swinney, whose wife, Peggy, supplied them with details about the murders only the police and the killer would know. As the admissible evidence against Swinney was only circumstantial, police instead charged him with felony theft of a car. Under Texas law, he was qualified for the State Habitual Crime Act and received a life sentence for being a repeat offender. He served 25 years before getting his case appealed and being released from prison at the age of 57 in 1975. He was arrested again for counterfeiting coins and stealing another car, and was sentenced to 2 years in prison again. Walked away from a prison labor job, was recaptured 4 days later, and sent to Leavenworth Prison to serve an additional 2 years for escaping. Though still alive, he was incarcerated again at the time the movie was made and shown. He died in 1994 at the age of 77. So maybe that guy did it.
Don Wells, who played Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, only worked for 1.5 days. It sounds like
was the
him in
entire
his 20
shoot?
years of life.
Well, hey. Roughly.
I extended it the extra half day.
Yeah, thanks. With the film's scarce home video availability, the 83-88 Warner Brothers VHS release and the later 94 Good Times EP VHS release being long out of print, and occasional late-night TV airings, it slowly started to become a cult classic with the advent of online discussion forums and a proper widescreen version finally shown on cable TV in the mid-2000s. The film's popularity suddenly grew even faster, with only bootlegged copies being available since an official re-release on Blu-ray DVD would not happen until 2013. This would rectify the hiatus period of almost 20 years.
In the film, during the scene where a movie theater is shown, a movie poster for Charles B. Pierce's previous work, Winterhawk, was visible on the left.
Makes sense.
Well, he didn't have to get
Permission
rights
from somebody
to
else
his.
if it's his, right? At the end, where they talk about Texarkana hasn't changed much, they show a line at the movie theater. The sign at the corner shows the name of the movie showing is The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
All right. The sack the killer wears on his head was the inspiration for the mask Jason Voorhees wears in Friday the 13th Part 2, and the beginning of Part 3, actually, if you remember. We talked about that the whole time we were watching the movie. It's like, hey, I wonder if that was where Voorhees got his from before they switched to the hockey mask, and apparently the answer is obviously yes.
It says, while based on a true story, the film's creative liberties stray so far from the real events. Dr. Robert Kerr, a Texarkana journalist, wrote about the movie, "Poetic license has rarely been stretched so thin," and described the film as total fiction.
Except for the fact that there were people in that town that were really killed, and all they knew was that the guy had a mask.
Right, like...
So everything they knew, they got right.
And
Everything else had to be made up because-
made up.
Yeah, like the dead people can't say, well, actually what happened was he came up behind me and shot me in the back of the head, and then he shot my... Like, he can't... How?
Right. The only thing that they knew, I guess there was a trumpet at one scene.
This is one of the dumbest facts I've ever found anywhere on the internet, and that's the internet, folks. There's a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
Considered one of the first of many slasher films, which originated as far back as 1959. You know, in 1976, this was one of the first of things that started almost 2 full decades earlier.
Good job, internet. Good job. The film...
I want to find whoever added that fact and just...
Downvote it?
Well, no, I just want to find that person and downvote them from life.
Oh, well, yeah. The film is one of several so-called drive-in flicks that were presented as true stories, a la The Legend of Boggy Creek, Walking Tall, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Mason County Line, and Jackson County Jail.
Macon County Line. But okay.
Macon County Line, okay. And Jackson County Jail, when most, if not all, of what was portrayed on screen was outright fiction, with the exception of The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was inspired by the Phantom Killer murders in Texarkana, Texas in '46.
Cinematographer James W. Robertson had a broken foot while he shot the film. How did he
Okay.
ever keep his hand steady with a broken foot? What?
Yeah. Some extras can be seen several times in apparently different roles during the film. While this could be an
Indication?
indicative that Texarkana was a small town back in '46, it's more likely an indicative of how...
Indicative. It's,
Indicative? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
of
shouldn't
how
say an indicative. It is indicative, but go ahead.
of how the low budget prevented the production of hiring more extras.
The actress playing Linda Mae Jenkins is clearly visible in a close-up shot in a car leaving the United States Army's Red River Arsenal at the beginning of the film.
The actress playing Peggy Loomis can also be seen at the very beginning of the film at the Paramount Theater in the back seat of a car. At the same Paramount Theater scene, an extra is seen crossing the street with a white and blue shirt. This same extra can be seen together with a small gathering of people right after the first victim, Linda Mae Jenkins, is found alive and the ambulance is arriving. Again, this same extra can be seen after the second attack when a gun store is shown. Lastly, the same extra is probably used again carrying the groceries for the Don Wells character during the Friday, May 3rd caption.
Okay, so...
Oh, there's more
so
there.
much of that. But Peggy Loomis, I wonder if that's where they got the Loomis name for Dr. Loomis in...
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, considered a slasher, I wonder if that's where they got the
In
Loomis name
76,
for... Which,
and that in 78, so possibly.
Yeah. Well, do you want to let me say Halloween so that people that don't necessarily know the years things were out will know what we're talking about? I was in the middle of a
Halloween.
sentence and you interrupted to not say the answer. The police department telephone operator who answers Mrs. Kinner phone calls can be seen reinforcing her curtain window right after the second attack. Also, at the high school prom, she can be seen pouring slow gin at the Red Punch. Maybe they mean in the Red Punch?
Yeah. The black guy identified as Mr. Johnson, who is giving a detailed statement to Captain Morales of how the supposed killer has threatened him, can also be briefly seen moments earlier as waiter on the restaurant scene. Sure.
The 2013 Shout Blu-ray DVD release contains an on-screen essay in the bonus features called The Phantom of Texarkana. The author refers to this film as creepy technoscope horror film. While it's true Charles B. Pierce shot two of his previous films on 2-perf 35mm technoscope, the legend...
Oh.
This movie... Wait, what? What did you do?
You did it.
The Legend of Boggy Creek and Winterhawk. He actually shot this film on 4-perf 35mm Panavision anamorphic. It was the third film. Holy crap, is this boring and I don't care. Next.
Yeah. All right, I'll just read this one because this is marked as my last one. One of the very few slasher films where the killer is not revealed at the end of the movie. Considering we started with, they never found the guy.
The Netflix version opens with the film with the more recent MGM logo. The Region A Blu-ray has a different logo or omitted it. I don't know. Sometimes their facts are just boring.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever done that. Getting close to 200 episodes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stop mid-sentence because I don't care. I just don't care. And if I don't care, how can I expect the people out there, and by people I mean the one or two people that has viewed our show ever,
Other
how
than
can
us.
they care?
Right.
What was your favorite scene? Oh, wait. Hold on.
Yeah.
The people have this at 41%.
And the critics, not very much higher at 42%.
Yes.
Um,
So what was your favorite scene?
I mean, the murders were... I'm just going to go with the murders, because the murders were pretty on point when it came to the special effects. Like, they
For
didn't-
what they could do in 76.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to say my favorite part was probably the fact that, someone had to sit down and, they wrote words for full-length scenes that there's no way in hell anyone could... And I love that in any movie. I'm like, the balls to say, this is what they said before the murder.
Right.
Like, it's so weird, and you can't do a movie without it. But to me, it's just a weird premise. Hey, screenwriter, fill in what we can't possibly know.
Right.
If it's a made-up thing, you can make up what they said, and it makes sense. But how do you do that when it's a true story?
Right.
And I just get a kick out of any time that happens. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Titanic, same thing. Like,
Titanic.
they don't know what the people who died were saying.
Nope. And Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't there.
Yeah.
So, it was
Anyway.
that.
What was your least favorite part?
The lack of
Scare?
that and much.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump on with you as that's my least favorite. It was more of a drama. It was interesting. It was worth watching.
It was.
But considering it one of the first slasher movies, 20 years after slasher movies, but whatever.
Right.
It doesn't really make sense because, yes, there are people that die, and yes, there are special effects showing the murders, like you said.
Right.
But it's so blah.
It's kind of meaningless.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's something where there'll be no conclusions.
Right. I debriefed at the beginning by saying there was a guy who liked to kill and some people who didn't want to die.
And that's
they met
basically
up.
the story.
And that's the story.
Yeah.
The story is they never found the guy.
So, well, they think they might have. The murders did stop
That's
when they arrested
very
that guy.
questionable.
No,
Well-
it's not. Because if you were the killer and you had a hankering for some killing, you wouldn't care that someone else got arrested. You'd kill.
Yeah,
You'd be
but
like, they're busy with the other guy. Hack/kill murder.
whatever.
But anyway, it was just... I was promised a horror movie, and it was mostly
very
a drama.
much wasn't. Right.
Even though some of the other ones had drama too,
Yeah.
they seem to ride the line closer to horror and slasher.
So on a scale from 1 to 10.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5 because it wasn't a bad movie. Anyway, now we gotta just give our regular credits at the end. So over on this side,
Yeah.
we've got, let's see, you can watch Gory Storytime on Fact TV, channel 1036, right?
76.
76. Blurry-eyed, I need glasses. Thursdays 8:30 and Fridays at 7 p.m.
You can like us on Facebook, and when I say us, I don't just mean Fact TV, but I mean Gory Storytime. You can go like our page. We post memes and such, and other
Haven't for
things.
a while, but
haven't for a while,
should.
and we talk about when horror icons die and such. So there's those things which are not fun.
You can also go to factdate.com and watch past episodes of this and many other things that are filmed right here in the beautiful town of Bellows Falls, Vermont.
Yes. And then there's Twitters. You can follow at Jiggly Firm Brain
That's his Twitter of things that I've said.
and
At Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase.
is Twitter of him saying things that he's said.
Yes. Or thought.
Yes.
And you can also check out my YouTube channel or Fact TV's YouTube channel. Mine, just look for Juggalo Jakes, or if you look for Gory Storytime, you should be able to find both because there's episodes on both pages,
Yeah.
both channels.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That is about it. So until next time, I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and father, Craig,
and sweet dreams.